In 2024, a study published in Science Advances sequenced genomes from elite Hunnic burials in the Carpathian Basin. These graves held gold-covered weapons, ceremonial horse gear, and intricate diadems. Archaeologists had long assumed such treasures belonged to male warriors. DNA proved otherwise. More than a third of these elite graves belonged to women. Not secondary burials, not wives placed beside husbands. Women buried alone, with weapons, with gold, with the full regalia of command. And their genetic code revealed an even deeper secret. Men in Hunnic elite graves carried mixed steppe ancestry, East Asian, West Eurasian, local European. Their Y chromosomes came from multiple sources, suggesting male power was flexible and open to outsiders. But the women told a different story. Their mitochondrial DNA, the lineage passed from mother to daughter, pointed consistently eastward, to Mongolia, to the heartland of the Xiongnu Empire, which had fallen centuries before the Huns reached Europe. These women were not captured, they were not assimilated, they were imported deliberately. The Hunnic ruling class was not built on warrior brotherhoods alone. It rested on marriage alliances that stretched across continents. Roman writers like Ammianus Marcellinus barely mentioned Hunnic women. When they did, it was as captives or curiosities. Historians have long described the Huns as a patriarchal war machine, mounted archers following strong male leaders. Ancient DNA is forcing a different view. At cemeteries near Budapest and Kecskemét, high-status female graves match or exceed male graves in material wealth. Some contain arrowheads, daggers, and horse harness fittings, objects traditionally labeled warrior gear. Bioarchaeologists have re-examined their bones. Many show signs of prolonged horseback riding, specific muscle attachments, and joint wear. Some show healed trauma consistent with combat or raiding. These women did not merely hold symbolic power. They may have fought for it. Elite Hunnic women carried East Asian haplogroups, D4 and C4, nearly identical to those found in Xiongnu royal burials in Mongolia. These lineages had deep roots in the eastern steppe, stretching back more than 2,000 years. Meanwhile, the men buried in the same cemeteries, often in separate graves, carried Y chromosomes from the western steppe or local European populations, including R1b and I2a. This pattern is not random, it is a system. Hunnic practiced elite exogamy. Powerful men married women from distant eastern clans, forging political alliances across thousands of kilometers. The women brought prestige, connections, and a direct link to the fallen Xiongnu legacy. They also brought their DNA, and they passed it to their children. If elite women carried Eastern steppe ancestry, then the question of who held the keys to Hunnic power becomes unavoidable. This pattern upends the standard narrative of nomadic empires. For decades, historians argued that nomadic confederations were driven by male lineage, clans of brothers expanding through conquest. The famous Y chromosome studies of Genghis Khan's supposed lineage reinforced this idea. But the Hunnic evidence suggests something different. Maternal lineages remained stable and Eastern. Paternal lineages varied and mixed across generations. Hunnic identity may have been negotiated through mothers, not fathers. A child born to an Eastern origin mother and a Western origin father inherited the mother's status, the father's political network, and the claim to both worlds. These children became the next generation of elites, bilingual, bicultural, and mobile. The system repeated for more than a century. This explains a long-standing mystery. Hunnic culture in Europe absorbed many local customs, pottery styles, burial positions, certain symbols, while elite regalia and weaponry remained distinctly Eastern. The Eastern character was carried by women who never fully assimilated. Local adaptation came through men who married into existing power structures. Neither dominated. Both were necessary. One grave near Szeged in southern Hungary is especially revealing. A woman aged 30 to 40, buried with a composite bow, a quiver of 20 arrows, and a solid gold diadem inlaid with semi-precious stones. She also had a bronze mirror, a high-status symbol from Mongolia to the Black Sea. Her genome showed almost pure East Asian ancestry, no detectable European admixture. Genetically, she was a Mongolian steppe noble. No male relative was buried nearby. No husband, no father, no brother. She was buried alone, with weapons of war. Whether she ruled independently or through a network that left no male remains in that cemetery, we cannot know. The written record is silent. But the burial itself proves that Hunnic society was far more complex than Roman chroniclers admitted. Why did history erase these women? Because those who wrote about the Huns were Roman, Greek, and later European men. They had clear ideas about gender and power. A woman with a weapon was an anomaly. A woman with authority was a threat. So they omitted, minimized, dismissed. For centuries, archaeology followed the same bias. Graves with weapons were automatically labeled male. Only recently have scientists begun systematically testing that assumption using ancient DNA and discovering how often it was wrong. Across the steppe belt, from Mongolia to Hungary, high-status female burials with weapons and horse gear are not rare. They're common. The Huns were not an exception. They were part of a wider tradition of steppe women who commanded armies, negotiated treaties, and shaped empires. If so many elite women were buried with weapons, perhaps the real question is not why were there female warriors, but why did we assume there weren't? This discovery reframes how we study ancient societies. When archaeologists and geneticists collaborate, old certainties crumble. A skeleton with a sword is not automatically male. A grave with gold is not automatically a king's. The Huns left no written records. We only see them through Roman eyes, and Roman eyes were not neutral. Now, through DNA, we see them as they were. A confederation of mounted warriors, yes, but also a system of alliances sealed by powerful women who carried ancestry, status, and authority across continents. Their names are lost, their bones remain. Every new genome pulls another forgotten leader out of the silence. So, when you picture a Hun warlord, do not only imagine a bearded man on a horse. Imagine a woman with a bow, a gold diadem, and a direct genetic line to the steppe's deepest power networks. She was there. She ruled. History forgot her, but DNA remembered. If this changed how you see the ancient world, imagine what else is still buried, waiting to be decoded. Subscribe to GenealogyX. The past isn't disappearing, it's being rewritten, one genome at a time.